That. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Rahinita Kokor, and this is our very first video of the year. And I have here with me.
Eli, sorry, I didn't know I was supposed to mention my name.
That's all
I
right.
thought you were going to introduce me. All right, that's
That's
fine.
fine.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
name is Eli Nate. Nice to meet all of you. Hope the year is treating you well.
Yeah. Yeah. It is so far, I guess. So you may want to tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, basically.
Okay, so I'm a number of things, but for today's podcast, you can think of me more of as a personal development coach, basically helping people set goals and build the right habits to achieve those goals. Yeah, so I think for now that should help. I'm based in Accra, Ghana, married to an amazing wife and a beautiful son who is bagging us every time, but he's so amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that's the long and short of me. If there's any extra information you need, feel free to ask. But I think that is it. I think maybe one last thing I like to add is I'm also an artist and
Okay.
animator. So yeah, that usually catches people off guard. Like, oh, really? Yeah, I never can't really see the correlation, but then yeah,
Yeah.
that's a little about me. I'll say I've been in and out of the personal development space for about, let's say, 6 years. But hopefully, God willing, this year and the next coming years, I want to be more active in that space because I realize that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and the master has need for me. Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that part of you with
you're
us.
welcome.
And thank you for joining us in our first podcast or having us for our very first podcast of the year. Okay, good, good. Right. So the year had already begun. January is actually done. And we know that many people at this time of the year are planning or they are setting their goals and targets, putting down their yearly resolutions together so they can achieve them. And hopefully by the end of the year, there could be some evaluation sort of. So, but I want to ask you, what's your take on New Year resolutions, basically? Because, we have a group of people that think that you do not necessarily need to wait for the year to begin before you start planning. You can do that any time of the year. But then we also have a group of people that also think that it's a new year. And so there is a need for us to plan the year. So what's your take on that?
Well, I think the moment it dawns on you that you need to take action to move towards a goal that is important to you, you take action. Um, I think if you wait, then maybe the truth of that revelation for whatever reason you want to improve has not really hit you. So for me, that's what I believe that regardless of whether it's the first of the week, the first of the month, first of the year, the moment you realize that, wow, my life is not moving in the direction, or this aspect of my life is not moving in the direction that I want, I need to take action immediately. And as the minutes roll by, we'll explain more why it's important that immediately a truth is revealed to you. Try and take action. Other than that, yeah, don't worry. Let me know. Let the cat out of the bag. Yeah. So yeah,
Okay, that's good. Thank you for that as well.
you're welcome.
So, the next thing I would like to find out from you about setting goals, for the year. How exactly are you supposed to go about it? Why is it important for us to set yearly resolutions? Is there a need for that at all?
Okay, cool. So I think maybe I'll answer the need for the resolution. Then I'll answer how I think the best approach to setting goals and habits should be, or what has worked for me. Then, because I think that will form a bigger chunk of our discussion for this afternoon. All
Exactly.
right. Yeah. So I think the first question is why should we set resolutions in the first place? I think for that one, if we are honest, life is very chaotic. And by default, if you don't do anything, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like that is how it is. So you will realize very quickly that you need to be very intentional about the steps you need to take to achieve whatever goal is important to you. As the saying goes, no one falls on top of the mountain. Those on top of the mountain had to climb there, actively plan, take steps, and get there. So that's why I think we need to plan, because life by default is chaotic. Almost everything and everyone is trying to pull you back. You have to
Yeah.
be very intentional and very aggressive about moving towards your goals. That's why I think we need to set goals. And that's why I think we need to have resolutions out. Yeah.
Right. Okay. The next question, how to go
Yeah. So
about it. Yeah.
go about it. All right, cool. All right. So I think this is going to form the chunk of our discussion today. The way I want to go about it is I have a 5-step framework on how to set and achieve your goals and habits for the year. So basically, 5 steps to setting and achieving your goals for 2025.
Right.
I adopted it largely from a book called Your Best Year Ever by Michael Hyatt. I used the first edition, but it's a second edition. I think the first edition came out 2018, but it's the second edition that's 2023. You could probably get that. Maybe he has added some new insights from it. But that's where the framework that I use is heavily based on. All right. So I'm going to go through the 5-step framework very quickly. Then we'll start to go through each one by one. And along the way, I'll pause if you have any questions, suggestions, or opinions. I'll take them and then we'll move forward. All right.
Great.
So let's begin.
Sure.
So number one, the very first thing is to get clear on your why. Get clear on your why. So by getting clear on your why, I'm talking about the reason behind why you're setting goals. All right. If the reason why you're setting goals is not strong enough, when the obstacles come, when the challenges come, you come up with a very wise, smart excuse, and you will not go to work on your goals. So you need to get clear on your why, your reason. Then the second thing is reviewing your past and learning from it. I'm sure most of your listeners, usually people who listen to these kind of podcasts, have tried setting goals in the past. It has worked to some degree, it hasn't worked to some degree. And there are things
Exactly.
you can learn from it. Exactly. There are things you can learn from it. So that's the second step. Once you've got clarity on why you want to achieve these goals, the next thing is, okay, the goals that I have set in the past, what are the lessons that I can learn from it? Then the third thing is basically, now that you have this information on what worked or what worked, what didn't work in the past, the next thing is to step into the future. All right. That's basically getting very specific on the goals you want to achieve. As I said, life is very chaotic. Almost everything and everyone is trying to pull you back. You have to be very intentional, very aggressive about moving forward towards your goals. And that starts with getting clear on what you want. You have to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be actionable. Da, 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 da. We'll talk about it. Then the fourth thing is basically now you take action. As I said earlier on, once it has dawned on you that your life is probably, or an aspect of your life is not moving the direction you want, take immediate action. Don't wait and say, okay, I'm going to wait for the beginning of next month. Take immediate action, because you are sending a signal to yourself that this thing is important. This thing is important. We need to work on it. And immediately your body and your mind starts going like, okay, let's prioritize this thing and start taking action on it. All right. So that's the fourth thing. And then finally, building in that accountability. So building a review and accountability system. All right. So that's the 5-step approach. Cool. So let's begin with step one.
Great.
Getting clear on your why. So in the book of John 17:4, it clearly says that I have brought you glory on earth by finishing the work you gave me to do. John 17:4. Now, about 3 years ago, I was thinking really hard about why we set goals. Because if you're probably listening to this, you're the type of person who sets goals, you're a go-getter, you're building habits, you're reading books and all of that. And I was just asking myself, why do you even set goals? Why do you set goals? And I kept on asking. It was for about 4 to 6 months. It was just on my mind. Like, why do you even set goals? Then I'll get a reason and I'll ask myself, why that reason? Why that reason? And eventually I came to the conclusion that the reason why most people or almost everybody sets goals is because they want to live the best version of their life. They don't want to look back 40, 50, 60 years from now and say, I regret the quality of the life that I lived. I made really horrible choices and I can't take it back. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. So that means whenever we set a goal, what we are implying is that we have seen all possible paths to the best version of our life, but in this one has the highest likelihood of getting us there.
Okay.
That ability is omniscience. That's omniscience, that you see a possible outcome. But no human being is omniscient. There's only one being in the entire universe that's omniscient.
Yeah.
And that's God. So you realize in some funny twist of events goal setting actually starts with God. Then you
Hmm.
ask yourself, okay, so what is God's goal for life? And
Okay.
you're basically asking the question about purpose. So, in summary, to summarize everything, because it was a long, winding journey, but it was really amazing. The purpose of life is to glorify God by becoming more like His Son, Jesus Christ. That is it. That is like the core, the foundation. And you see it as I'm going through the rest of the remaining four steps. That it's just this beautiful plan that He set everything in motion from the beginning of time. So that is it. All right. Now you could think about, the reason for whatever you set the goals as maybe the second layer, but that the core foundation is to glorify God by becoming more like His Son Jesus Christ. Because you think about it, if let's say your goal is to become financially secure, to have a certain amount of money in your account, and you want to go about it by stealing money from your company, you're trying to achieve, let's say, a godly goal, in quotes, through ungodly
Means.
approach to
Yeah.
exactly the means by which you're doing it, that identity and character from which you're doing it, that is not what Jesus would have done. So immediately you realize that there's a tension. So that is like the core of why we set goals. Then on top of that, you can build whatever reason you have. Maybe let's say the reason why you want to achieve a certain financial goal is because we live in a world that is driven largely by money, and you need money to get things done. And
Yeah.
most of the goals you have need money. Yeah. So that
Exactly.
could be a
Yeah.
second reason. All right. And that brings me to another thing where I really think a lot about these things because I'm also helping people. So I try to break things down to understand how I can explain it to them for them to understand and take action. So I was thinking a lot about why we are even motivated in the first place to work on our goals. And I was listening to a talk, I think about 3 or 4 weeks ago by a gentleman known as Alex Homozy and a gentleman known as, I think, Chris Williamson. And Chris Williamson was the one interviewing him. Yeah, he said he had interviewed hundreds and hundreds of successful people. And one thing that one party he had noticed was that with almost all of them, the reason why they started to move towards their goal was from a place of anger. I was like,
Hmm.
that's interesting. So I started
Yeah.
reflecting on myself that the goal that I had achieved in my life, did it come from a place of anger? Was I dissatisfied with something? And I realized that was true. I started going back. I realized that almost always it was because I was extremely unhappy with how certain things were. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
Eli, things must change. And I took action. So I started realizing that for a long time, I had been pushing people to go, I call it like a two-sided coin, to move in the direction of aspiration. Like the reason should be aspirational. You know, maybe you want to feed the hungry children in the world or you want to cure cancer or something like that. Those things are good. They have their place and time. But I realized that for most people, what really gets and get going is that they're deeply dissatisfied with the status quo of how things are in their life at the moment. They're like, things have to change. Like next year by this time, child, we can't be here. That
Mm.
thing really gets people moving. But I realized that a lot of people try to subdue that thing. Like, no, 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 no. I want this, this bright, shiny future thing. I want that thing to be the only thing that pulls me. But you realize that, like, because it's not tangible yet, it's out there in the future. You've not yet grabbed it. It becomes hard to use it as energy or fuel to move forward. So what I tell people is that if what you have right now is a deep dissatisfaction with the way things are, and you know who you are in Christ, and you know you are destined for greater things, use that to move you forward. You think that, Charlie, who God has made me to be is far better than this. I can't keep on stooping low. A lot of people try to, quiet the anger, try to quiet the disgust. Like, oh, things are not that bad. Or it's not that horrible. No, open the box. Take a look at the thing. Look at yourself in the mirror and go like, Charlie, you know that you can, yeah, you're not pulling your weight. You
Yeah.
can step up. You
Yeah.
know, that's energy that you can really use to move yourself forward. And thirdly, still on the why, is about mindset. So for most of my clients, I realized that for a long time, I just assumed that they had the mindset to start and stay on their goal for a considerable period of time. So I was just giving them the strategies and the tactics. I was not really focusing on mindset. But I realized that every time, or almost every time I gave them an assignment, they came back with an excuse. I was like, come on. Like, this is not really an excuse. Like, after 10 minutes, 5 minutes, we realized that, okay, we can solve this thing by this way. And I realized that mindset is almost the first thing you need to really address when you're trying to achieve goals.
Yeah.
Because We are telling ourselves stories about our goals and how we can achieve them. And in those stories are buried truths. And in those truths, we are taking action. And if those truths are based on a lie, you will not hit your goal.
Yeah.
So, how do you reset your mindset? I was thinking about that. I think about these things a lot. So, like, how can I pass it on to somebody in a very simple way? Like, okay, your mindset is a big stumbling block towards this goal you're setting. How can we reset your mindset? This is a simple framework. Find people who have already achieved your goal, who
Mm.
are probably in your same situation or worse off, but have achieved your goal or greater. The moment you're constantly exposing yourself to people who are in a worse condition than you are and have achieved your goal, it becomes really hard for you to think that I don't think it's possible for me. I don't think it's
Yeah.
my portion in life. You're like,
You do not have
there's
that
definitely a
excuse to
way.
give. Yeah.
It just disappears. Because
Yeah.
if you're listening to the story of somebody who it's in a war-torn area. There are bombs being dropped on in their homes, in their cities almost every day. They have to ration some piece of bread for like a week, and then they had to get a middleman to put them on some wooden boats with a tie, and they were on the sea for like 7 days, and they got another. And then you look at your story, you're like, Charlie, 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 come on.
Yeah.
You realize that hey, you have to step up.
Yeah.
So one framework, one way you can go about it, one action item is like listen to a lot of podcasts. Reginita's podcast is an awesome place to start. Listen to a lot of podcasts. Listen to the stories of people who are probably been in worse conditions than you are, but have achieved the goal you have. You do that for so long, you realize that you can't come up with an excuse. You just have to take action and keep on pushing. And during your times of difficulty, you realize that flashes of their story start to appear in your mind like, wow, I remember, this is the hard part. This is the adversity that this person talked about. This is my chapter of adversity too. So I got to go through it, then you push through. So at this point I'll pause, and then if you have anything to share, the next thing I'll do here is just give a few action items for step one, then we'll move on to step two. So is there
Yeah.
anything you like to share or yeah.
Well, I think that I like the fact that you mentioned the hunger, from the beginning, because if that hunger is not there and you feel satisfied with where you are, the likelihood that you are not able to get to your destination is quite low. So the hunger to say that, no, I need to get to another level. I need to, step up. I am not satisfied with where I am. I think it's a good way to start, because if I feel that I'm okay, why would there be a need for me to set, goals to keep moving? So I think that's quite a very interesting point that you mentioned in there. Just wanted to touch on it again. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm happy that blessed you. Because there's a simple quote for that to help maybe moving forward, which is satisfied needs do not motivate.
Okay.
Satisfied needs do not motivate. Once you've had like 3 bowls of kinky and tilapia and pepper and you've
Hmm.
drank 2 sachets of water, you are not motivated to eat.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Yeah.
satisfied needs do not motivate. Yeah. Oh, for our foreign audience, sorry that maybe we lost you on the food over there. Maybe you can
Uh,
Google it.
they would have to
Anyway,
visit Ghana to have a taste of and understand why you're even giving this as an example anyway. Yeah.
3 points for Ghana. All
I
right.
know.
So for our listeners, for step one, what I want you to do is I want you to write down this simple statement. The purpose of life is to glorify God for becoming
Mm,
more like His Son, Jesus Christ. And I want you to spend the next 2 to 4 weeks really digging out why that statement is true, because it is true. And I just want you to spend the next several weeks with that statement, like let it be on your thoughts. Let it really impact the way you think on a moment by moment basis. Let it impact your interactions because it will really start to change the way you think and the way you respond to the events of life and even the goals you set for your life. So that's the
right.
first thing. The second thing that I want you to do is I want you to write down why you have set the goals you have set for this year. Maybe you have just one goal, or you have two, or you have 10. Why
Yeah.
have you set those goals? Question the reasons behind those reasons. The third thing I want you to do is I want you to really visualize that goal happening. Even if it's just one goal, just visualize it happening. If you have to even close your eyes for 30 to 45 seconds, visualize it happening in as much detail as possible. Now, this is the important thing. Usually, I tell people, do your visualization exercises in the morning. What I've realized is that for me personally, what helps is to visualize it when I start coming up with an excuse not to work on my goal at the moment.
Mm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
time for me to work to work on my goal, whether it's finishing my book or something. And I go like, let me just wait for like an extra. I go like, nope. Then I visualize my goal. I visualize the book done. I visualize the book on Amazon Kindle. I visualize the book launch. I visualize, people who I love and respect being there, my family being there. Once you do that, like, okay, Charlie, let's write another chapter. It
yeah,
becomes hard for you to just, you know, brush it away. So that's
yeah.
the third thing. The moments where you want to be lazy, you want to come up with an excuse, or you face a legit obstacle. Visualize the goal happening, and then find a way through the obstacle.
Mm-hmm.
Ask for help, find a way through the obstacle. Cool. So that's it. So number two. So that's the second step to achieving your goals and habits for 2025 is to review the past and learn from it. All right. The key verse for that is Galatians 4, 5 to 6. Galatians 4, 5 to 6. Each one should test their own actions. Then you can take pride in themselves alone. Then they can take pride in themselves alone, sorry, without comparing themselves to someone else. But each one should carry their own load. All right. Now, there are two types of comparison. There's positive comparison and negative comparison. And you can tell the difference by the outcome of what you decide to do after you compare yourself. So for
Mm.
positive comparison, that is where you juxtapose your habits and your goals and your outcomes to somebody who you feel is identical to you but has a better outcome. And then based on that, you are inspired to do better. That is a positive comparison. Negative comparison is when you do the same thing and then you become envious, you become
Mm.
jealous, and you start putting schemes and things in place to pull them down. You start cooking up conspiracy theories and all those things to pull them down. That's a negative comparison. So what we want to do more as Christians, as children of God, is to do the positive comparison. And when it comes to comparison, for me personally, I believe there are only two people you should compare yourself with. The first is Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So you see how I'm talking about like everything just lays on top of each other. The first is Jesus Christ. He's the template for life. He came on earth and did the human thing and did it really well to the best of his abilities, to the
Yeah.
glory of God. So that's the first person you compare yourself. He's our life model. The second person you compare yourself with is your younger self. So who you
Mm.
were 3 months from now, six from like 6 months ago. How are you now? Now, when it comes to reviewing your past and learning from it, I use a framework I call WILD, LDO. This is how it works. All right. And I know for most people, they usually have just like one big goal for the year, that this year I want to maybe, let's say, lose weight, or this year I want to finish this thing and submit my thesis, or this year I want to finish this number of books or whatever. I want to finish this course, this short course. So what you do is you pick that goal and then ask yourself, what did you want to happen? All right. Then number two, what actually happened? So what do you want to happen? That's the W. What do you want to happen? Then number two, what actually happened? That's the A. Then number three, what did you learn from what you wanted to happen, but then actually happened? So that's the L. Then finally, number four, what are you going to do differently based on what you've learned? So taking action once again. All right.
Mm.
Now, I've realized that when it comes to goal setting, usually the first thing that people tell me is daunting about it is that it feels very large. Like life is large. There's so many parts. There's your
Mm-hmm.
spiritual growth, there's relationships, there's school, there's finance, there's savings. If you have kids, there's parenting, then there's your health. It's like, where do you even start? God
I know,
help me.
right? Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
you know, so using this three-step breakdown, you can break life into three major domains. You have your
Mm.
state of being. So over there, you have the spiritual growth goals. So maybe reading your Bible, praying, fasting, sharing the gospel. You have your health and fitness goals. So, eating well, eating a lot of fruits, vegetables, staying off junk food, getting enough sleep, drinking a lot of water, exercising. Then you have your emotional goals. So I'll dwell a little bit on emotional goals because whenever I say emotional goals, people are like, what's emotional goals? How do you say emotional goals?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, Reggie, has this ever happened to you before? Let's say you are taking Trotro to somewhere, right? So Trotro is like commute, public transport, a bus, and you pay your fare. You're waiting for change. It could be maybe 50 pesos or 1 cedi. And then all of a sudden, the mate just stops looking in your direction for whatever reason. Like he doesn't have
Yeah.
to give you change.
Yeah.
And you're getting close to your destination. Then you prompt the mate like, mate, my change.
My
Then he looks
change.
at
Yeah.
you with this, like this loss look like, I've already given you a change.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving my change. He tells you to check into your place, and you look, it's like, you've not given me a change. Then he goes like, why are you passengers such liars like that? Immediately, depending on who you are,
I
be
know.
like, whoa, like you don't know me from anywhere. Why are you
Yeah.
just calling me a liar? Why are you talking to this way? Then he just
Yeah.
starts insulting you and all of that.
Mm.
Then let's say you get to your destination, you drop off. If you keep dwelling on what transpired in the bus, your day is probably
Your
going to be messed up
entire
for the next
day.
3 4 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You start thinking like, who does that? Who just talk to people anyhow? Do you know where I'm from? Do you know where? And your whole day
Yeah.
just takes a different direction. However, if you have decided, let's say you go down from the bus and you tell yourself, okay, the bus is gone with the annoying meat. That chapter of my day is closed. Let's
Mm-hmm.
focus on the things that we need to get done. What do I need? What's my very first task for the day? Okay, I need to send this email. I need to make this call. I need to check up on this thing. Cool. Let's focus on that thing. Maybe you listen to some music. Within 10, 20 minutes, you reset and you focus on the way.
Yeah.
You realize that your thoughts influence your emotions.
Exactly.
So if you want to set emotional goals, your focus should be on the quality of the thoughts that you have on a day-to-day, moments-to-moments basis.
Mm.
So what I recommend for people over there is mindfulness meditation. And no, it's not voodoo weird kind of stuff. It's simply training your mind to catch yourself when you drift on a thought you want to stay focused on. Simple as that. And you realize I say when, because your mind will drift. There's this amazing book, Attention Span by Gloria Mack, where she says the average attention span of a human being is 47 seconds. That you can only
Okay.
focus on something for 47 seconds. And most people can't even do 20 seconds. If you're listening
I
to me right now,
know.
you could probably pause and try and focus on one specific place in your room mentally for 30 seconds. Trust me, it's really hard. Your mind will drift. You start thinking about what you're going to do afterwards, which like you will be all over the place.
And I think
So if you're able
this can even
Mhm.
apply. I don't know about others, but sometimes you're praying for a period of time. You could easily tell that, no, I have drifted. Your mind is roaming all around and then you have to come back. So
uh,
yeah, that's so, so, so true. Yeah.
it's so true. Because the most recent recommendation I made for somebody was because she said, when I'm praying, within a couple of minutes, I'm gone. Like, what do I do to help me?
Mm,
This thing keeps on happening. So I recommended a resource for her, mindfulness meditation, to just practice training your mind to stay on thoughts. So I started mindfulness meditation somewhere in 2018. For like a year and a half, I was really at it every single day. It takes a
mm,
while for you to see the effects. But that year and a half has really helped me. I'm not so consistent with it now, honestly, but I still reap the benefits from it all the way back because now I'm able to quickly catch myself whenever I'm drifting. I'm able to pause and respond in a way that I'll be proud of to somebody on an event of life later on. You know that kind of thing where you just snap and you respond. Then
yeah.
later on, you're like, could have said this thing better.
Yeah.
I have less of those episodes now because you're able to pause and just quickly dwell on that thought and go like, do I really want to say this thing?
I
How is it
know.
going to play out? Nah, I don't think it's going to. Then you change your thoughts. All right.
Mm,
So that's emotional growth. All right, cool. So let's get back. So spiritual growth goals, health and fitness goals, emotional goals, academic goals. So if you're pursuing a course, a degree, a short course, whatever it is, you set goals in those areas. So that's the first part. That's your state of being. Then the next is your state of relation. So maybe if you're married, you want to go out, hang out every other Friday or something. If you're not married, you're dating, what are your relationship goals? When do you plan to get married? Whatever it may be. If you're not married and you're thinking of finding somebody, who do you want to spend the rest of your life with? Then all of a sudden the question of purpose comes in. You see how
yeah.
all of a sudden Jesus comes back into the picture again. It's just such a beautiful setup that God has done for us. Anyway, so yeah, think about marriage, think about purpose, like what's your purpose, what's the person's purpose, how are you helping them to become more like who God has destined them to be, and vice versa. What kind of places do you want to hang out? you get my drift. I don't want to
Yeah.
go so much on that. This is not a relationship talk. But yeah, so you have your relationship goals over there. If you are married and you have kids, then you have your parenting goals too over there. If your parents are still alive, your relationship with your parents, maybe you want to call them. If you're not living with them, you want to call them every week and check up on them. How is business going? How is retirement or whatever it may be. Then over there, you have your social goals. So that's your friends. So that's the third part,
Mm.
the friends. Now, I realize that as you get older, you have to become very selective of who your friends are. When you are
Right.
younger, by default, we make friends because of the school that our parents have chosen for us.
Yeah.
But as you get older, based on who you want to become in life, you have to become very selective of the friends that you surround yourself with. All right. So that's the third thing. So that's your state of relationship goals, parenting goals, and then friends or social goals. Then your last domain, your state of work. So over there, we're looking at things like your career. So what do you want to do for work? Once again, purpose comes in over there. So
Yeah.
it's just like
Everything
it's
comes
just
back
amazing.
to, yeah,
Everything comes
purpose. Yeah.
everything comes back to purpose. Everything
And you
comes
know, when
back to
you
purpose.
began, I like the introduction you gave about the fact that even God Himself sets goals. I mean, why
Mm,
mankind? What's the reason? So
mm,
everything that we do on it, everything that even we're discussing right here, you could see the
hmm.
origin. So it's more
Yeah,
like we can't just do away with that part. So it keeps coming in all the
that's
time.
beautiful.
It's
That's
very
beautiful.
interesting. Yeah.
That's a powerful insight. All right. So the next domain, which
Mm.
is your state of work. So career goals. All right. Maybe you own your own business or you're an employee for somebody. You have put yourself in a place where you are now a co-creator with the ultimate creator, bringing into existence things that didn't exist to improve the quality of life or the businesses of other people. So your
Mm.
career goals. So the next is your avocational goals. So things you do for fun, leisure activities. These things are really important. Usually we branch them off because I know most people who are listening to this are like go-getters, high achievers, like got to be serious in life. There's no time for play. But if you look at life is always oscillating, like it's always moving from one high to one low. It doesn't rain forever. The sun doesn't shine forever. Life, like when you look at a flat line, when somebody has passed, it's literally a flat line. But when somebody's alive, you see the ups and downs. That's your the valves in your heart are opening and closing to pump blood. So if you're always like tensed, always like super serious, always focused, it doesn't help. You need to find time to relax, to decompress in a healthy way, whether it's to hang out with your spouse or a loved one, or, whether you're baking or you're cooking or you're drawing or painting or singing, you find a healthy way to decompress because those things, they really help you to recharge. And when you go back to the serious goals, you have this new fire, this new energy. All right. So the leisure activities, please make time for them. It's important. Then lastly, you have your financial goals. All right. So maybe you want to set financial security goals, financial independence goals. And these things are very important. As I talk about setting smarter goals. That's very specific. A lot of people throw these words around. Financial security. I want to be financially secure. I want to be financially independent. What do they actually mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
can you measure it? What does it mean? Does it mean that you have this amount of money in your bank account, or you set up this system that gives you a certain percentage on a principal that you've set up? Like, what does it actually mean? All right. Other than that, you keep on saying that I want to make more money. I want to make more money. Every year you pass, and you can't track it. And
Yeah.
every year you feel like you are behind. All right. So those are the three domains of life. You can set goals in all of those domains, and they're really helpful. However, what I recommend is for starters, just pick one thing and then go after it. Anyway, I have shifted into step three, but let's just recap step two real quick, which is setting the framework. So what I want you to do is I want you to do the Waldo framework. Pick just one goal you had for last year and ask yourself, what did you want to happen? What actually happened? Based on what actually happened, what did you learn from it? Now, based on what you
Mm.
learned from it, what are you going to do? Then take action. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So step three. But let me take any questions or any suggestions or any
Oh well,
additions
so
from
I
you.
think I think it's very clear the points that you're raising. So you can proceed, please. Yeah.
Awesome. I like that. So step three is to step into the future. All right. And a key verse for that is Habakkuk 2, 2 to 3. Then the Lord replied, write on the revelation and make it plain on tablets,
Mm.
so that a herald may run with it. For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. So, writing your goals and making them clear,
Right.
setting a smarter framework. A lot of people are familiar with setting smart goals, but I want to introduce you to the ER at the end. That means your goals have to be specific. So, for example, if you say, oh, I want to lose weight, it's not specific. How much weight do you want to lose? If you don't have a scale, get a scale, get a tape measure or something. Find a way to track your weight loss. So it has to be specific. Okay, I want to exercise. Good. I want to exercise 3 times a week. Good. It's more measurable. How many minutes do you want to exercise? What exactly is the exercise? Are you playing tennis? Are you swimming? Are you jogging? I want to jog 15 minutes, 3 times a week. It's more specific, it's measurable. SM. Then the A is for actionable. It's actionable. You can know whether you've jogged or not. If you say, I want to lose weight, how can we? It's not actionable. But I want to jog 15 minutes a day. It's actionable. You can take action on it. The R is the relevance. So the relevance is tying back to the purpose. Everything, your body is the temple of God. And you have to take good care of it. The body that you have is not yours. You are a steward of it. It's been given to you for a season. This life, So it comes back, ties back to purpose again.
Yeah.
So that's the relevant part. Then the T is time bound. I'll talk about achievement goals and then habit goals in a bit. I think it's a good time for me to even talk about them. So time bound, all right. It has to have a start and a deadline, and that's for achievement goals. A lot of people back in the past, myself, I used to set a lot of achievement goals. Oh, I want to buy this thing. I want to do this thing. But the most achievement goals have habit goals underneath them. And we don't hear people talk much about habit goals. So habit goals
Mm.
is something you do on a daily, weekly, quarterly basis, or yearly basis. Usually habit goals stack up to help you achieve an achievement goal. So for
Yeah.
example, let's say you want to buy a car. That is an achievement goal. But then the habit goal is probably saving 10, 20% of your income every month. All right. So time bound, depending on the nature of your goal, you might have the habit goal. So even with a habit goal, the time bound could be within the day. I want to exercise from 5 to 5:30 a.m., jogging 3 times a week. So you've given yourself a block of time that happens. All right. Then the E is exciting. The goal should excite you. All right. Like 5 to 6 out of 7 days in a week, you should be excited to go to work on your goal. If 1 to 2 days out of the week, you're not excited to go to work on your goal, that's probably not your goal. You probably heard it somewhere on social media or something,
Yeah.
and you want to make it your goal, and it's causing a lot of tension in your life.
Mm.
So the goal should excite you. All right. Then the last one is risky. There should be a likelihood that the goal might not happen. So it should push you. If it's too easy, funny enough, we will not take action. It's weird. But the moment it's like, Charlie, this thing might not happen because it's so out of your comfort zone. But if it
Yeah.
does happen, wow, it'll be so amazing. You
Yeah.
want to stand on top of the mountains and tell people, I achieved this goal. So it has to be exciting. It has to be a bit risky. It has to be out there. All right. So, because excitement sometimes gets you going. So that's setting the smarter goals. It has to be specific, measurable, action oriented, time bound, exciting, and risky. Then we also talked about achievement goals and then habit goals.
Yeah.
Now, the moment we talk about habit goals, we have to talk a little bit about habits because people just, first of the year, okay, from now I'm going to exercise 30 minutes every day. Then 3 weeks in, it's not happening because they
Yeah.
don't understand how habits work. So how habits work, real quick. Big shout out to James Clear from Atomic Habits. Habits happen in 4 stages. You have the cue, the craving, the routine, and the reward. So let me give an example. Let's say you close from work, right? And you're heading home. And your way, you smell kele hot spicy kele with the ginger and then the pepper and everything
Mm.
inside and
Mm.
plantain. That's the cue. That's like, mm, that's that smells nice. Then you start thinking about it. You switch into the craving. You start imagining how the kelewele would taste like. You throw it into your mouth. You pop in a few granules here and there. Like, yeah. You start imagining it. You start craving for it. Then you join the queue. That's the routine. It gets to your 10, you take out the money, then you buy your 5 CDs or 10 CDs. Now, Kelewele is really expensive. You buy like 10 CDs. Then you eat it. It tastes like what you imagine. That's the reward. So that's the cue, craving the routine, the reward. If you take out the cue, so let's say all of a sudden, after a couple of months, you realize that your dresses start feeling a bit tight. Your
Mm,
dresses are not growing smaller. Someone is growing bigger. And it's
exactly.
because of the fatty foods you're eating. So what you can do
Mm,
is cue, take away the cue, change the direction that you use to get to your house. Maybe there's a way behind. It's maybe an extra 2-3 minutes walk. It's good. At least
mm-hmm.
you're walking a bit and you're avoiding the Kelewele stand. All right. So that's just real quick habits, how habits work. If you like it, I'm going to check out the book and learn about it. All right. So what I want to talk about is, and we'll wrap up this third section, is that I usually plan my goals with a calendar open. So what happens is I decide, okay, this is what I want to do, and I block it out in my Google Calendar. I'll explain why I do that later on. But by the grace of God, I've been able to develop the habit to take my calendar seriously. There's still a certain level of respect I call my calendar. When notifications pop up, I almost always look at them and I take action. So that's why I do that. I look at my goals. Okay, this is what I want to do. Okay, this is action I need to take. Then I open my Google Calendar, which is almost always open, and I block it out. So when it pops up, I take action. Because usually what people do is they say, okay, I want to do this thing. Then they write it in a book and then they close the book. The
And then
book
you
is not
forget.
going to remind you and you forget.
Yeah.
The book is not going to remind you that, hey, you said your goal for this year is this thing. Well, you need to take this specific action on this specific day to move forward. It won't do that.
Mm,
So you need a system, an automated system that will prompt you that you need to take action at this specific day and this specific time. That's why I use the calendar and I set up notifications. So what I want you to do, right, whoever is listening, is I want you to write down one goal that you really want to achieve this year in very, like, very clear, plain language. It has to be specific. It has to be measurable. You should be able to track it. And by tracking, I'm not just talking about that kind of thing where I ask you, okay, did you work on it today? And you say, yeah, today I did. Today I did. What about yesterday? So yesterday, I'm not really sure. What about the day before? And the day before, I think so. No, I would like track it. If I could like write it down, what's the number? For me, I use Google Sheets to track my habits. And I'll pause at this point because something is very important. If it feels overwhelming, like the things I'm talking about, right? I've been doing this for quite some time. So
mm,
you hear me talking about, a calendar or this system or these sheets and all of these things. It will take some time for you to build out these systems and these habits. Be patient with yourself. All right. So what I just want you to do is I just want you to get crystal clear on your goal. Just if it's just one goal, just get crystal clear on one goal for the year, like your big goal for the year. Make sure you can measure it. Make sure that you can take action on it. If it's every day or every other day, take action on it so that it moves you forward.
mm.
All right. So, Virginia, do you have any questions or suggestions at this point?
Yeah, I think that I find the point where you mentioned that sometimes you write, not sometimes, whenever you write in a book, the book doesn't give you reminders. I find that quite relatable because I
Yeah.
could pick an old book that I do write plans in, or I used to write plans in, and I go through it. I'm like, whoa! So these were the things that I mentioned that I was going to do, and somehow in the course of a year, it just never occurred to me that these were my goals because the book will never really remind you unless you place it somewhere you can see it all the time. You are very intentional about opening it and all of that. So I think the suggestion of Google is it Google
Calendar.
Calendar? Yeah, Google
Yeah,
Calendar.
Google
It's
Calendar.
it's quite very insightful. I believe that many of our listeners here are also learning from that as well, and we are hoping that would implement some of this, most of the strategies that our guest is mentioning. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
You're
It's very
welcome.
useful. That's very
Welcome.
useful. Yeah.
Glad I could help. All right. So the fourth thing. All right. So quick recap. We've talked about getting clear. So the first step is get clear on why you want to achieve your goals. All right. The second step is take a step back into the past, the goals that you set. What are the lessons you can learn from them? Step three, step into the future. get crystal clear on the goals that you want to achieve for this year. Write it down. Make sure they're very specific and measurable. Now, step 4 is to take action. Take action. And a key verse for that is James 2:17. In the same way, faith by itself, if not accompanied by action, is dead. So, if you write down these beautiful, sophisticated, amazing sounding plans for the year, and you don't take action, they're not going to happen. So, in this place, how I like to explain to people is this: your goals would have to happen within a span of time with an expense of energy. What that simply means is that your goals will have to happen during a duration of time. It might take 3 months, it might take 6 months, and you have to do something. You have to invest effort in them for it to manifest.
Yeah.
So that's what basically that your goal have to happen within a span of time with an expense of energy. And immediately you have two big variables. You have time and then you have energy. A lot of people do time management, but they don't do energy management. Because Reginita, has this ever happened to you before? You set a beautiful to-do list for the day. Wake up at like, let's say 5:30 a.m. Then you start knocking out the goals. Bah, 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 bah. Then by
That
12,
feeling is really good.
it's amazing. Then by 12, maybe 11, 12, you go for lunch. Then after lunch, you come back and you can't keep your eyes open. It's just drowsy. It's just clicking around. You can't keep your eyes open. You can't focus. But you still have a lot of things to get done in energy management. So I'll talk about time management and I'll talk about energy management because these things have to go together. Other than that, you'll be looking at your to-do list and it will be laughing at you.
Yeah.
So the first thing, the time management framework I used, I got it from a book called Getting Things Done by David Allen. And I've modified it a bit. So I call it ECPORA. So ECPORA. The E stands for elevate. So elevate your identity. So coming back to that, who do you want to become? You want to become more like Christ. Identity plays a very powerful role. Whatever you do, it will always pass through that lens of how you perceive yourself. Cool. So identity. E is to elevate your identity. And what do I mean by elevate your identity? Let's take two people. Imagine one person says, I want to become the president of Ghana in the next 15 years. Another person says, I want to become a multimillionaire in the next 10 years. Or let's say 15 years, because let's use the same timeline. These two people would think and behave very differently. One person who wants to become the president of Ghana, you realize that they don't engage in certain things. They don't behave in certain ways because their mind is like, I'm going to become the president of Ghana. I'm going to become the president of Ghana. They operate with a very different level of identity. And because they see themselves becoming the president of Ghana in the next 15 years, they are forced, that goal places a demand on them. They are forced to behave in a certain way with their time. So that's what I mean by elevate your identity, because currently you are not yet the president of Ghana.
Yeah.
But then hopefully you would be. So within that gap is the time and the expense of energy you have to expense. You have, like, the moment we see this thing a lot of times where there's this stubborn kid in class and the teacher decides to just give him a responsibility. Hey, you're the cupboard boy, you're the bell boy, you're the class prefect. Immediately you realize that they begin to shape up because responsibility has been placed on them.
Yeah.
So that's what Elevate does. A lot of people just do a lot of time management tools, tactics, they are tracking stuff, but they don't realize that you have to think, okay, if I was the president of Ghana, how would I manage my time? It forces you to do certain things to your plan, like,
yeah,
because you're like, okay, this thing can be in there. Yeah, this thing can be in there. You just take it out. Or like, oh wow, I need to add this thing over there. If you also want to become a multimillionaire in the next 10, 15 years, you have to think, okay, how would a multimillionaire manage his or her time?
Yeah.
Okay, you have to elevate your identity. Then you plan your day accordingly. Then the C is for collect. So collect all the things that you can possibly think of that need to get done under a specific project or the project that you have. And I know that sounds like a lot of work, but you only have to do it once. And then you literally just have to maintain that list as you go on. What I use Notion as an app. I use Notion to, collect all of those things into a board. And then what I do next is that's the O, which is to organize. What David Allen recommends is Anything that's going to take 2 minutes or less, do it immediately. I have my own
Mm,
reservations on that because I realize that you start and say, okay, this is just 2 minutes. The next thing you know, okay, let me just add like let me just change this thing. Then it's 3 minutes. Okay, let me just then it's 5 minutes. Then you know how the story ends. So for
yeah.
me, even if it's going to take 2 minutes or less, I just you know delegate it for later, defer it for later. So that's the O. If it's going to take 2 minutes or less, take action immediately. But what I recommend is if you're going to do that, set a timer, set a 2 minute timer. When it's time, move on to the next thing. All right. So that's the O. So E, elevate your identity. C, collect all of the things that need to get done under the specific project. Or if it's going to take 2 minutes or less, do it immediately. Then, so I jumped the P. Sorry. So the P is basically that is if, so you're processing it. Is it going to take 2 minutes or less? All right. Then the
Mm-hmm.
O is where you start to organize it, start to defer it. So what I do with the O is in my Notion templates, right? I have my projects. Under each project, there are tasks. So the tasks are the things that I need to get done. Then, excuse me. Then when I'm done, I use what is known as a timeline. You can Google these things. They're quite easy to do. You find YouTube tutorials on them. I use a timeline. It's like a Gantt chart. If you're familiar with project management, you know Gantt charts. Then I map out how the things are going to unfold for the next couple of days or weeks. It gives me a very realistic idea of how long things will take. And then
Mm-hmm.
I do the review of it before I take action. So that's the easy power framework. Elevate your identity. If you want to, based on who you want to become, ask yourself, how does that person manage their time? Plan your day accordingly. C, collect the things that need to get done. P, if it's going to take 2 minutes or less, work on it immediately. But if you're going to do that, please set a timer so that you don't get derailed. Or block out the things that need to get done, forecast them over the next couple of days or weeks. You can use a tool like Notion. R, review what needs to get done within that week, within the day. A, take action, and then take action. So that is it. I know that's a lot. So I think I want to pause over here and then take any questions or suggestions from you whilst I also sip some water.
Wow. That's quite interesting. I there are a number of things that I'm still learning. Um, and I like the portion where you mentioned elevate your identity, because if you want to attain you want to achieve a certain goal and you are not behaving the way people like that behave, then you are certainly not going to get to that point in life. So I think that's also very key. So if you see yourself as, say, a millionaire, what do millionaires do on a daily basis? Is it the same thing you are doing?
Exactly.
So I think that's very, sorry, that's very crucial. That's very important to note as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So that was a little bit I added to his framework. I think his framework is just collect, process, organize, review, and then take action. But I realized that elevating really helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's,
collecting, as I said, so these are the tools that I use. If you want to use them, fine. So I use Notion to collect the things I need to get done. I use Toggl, Toggl, to track my activities, things that I do on a daily basis. So when I start an activity, I set a timer and I start tracking it. And for a while, I know it seems like a lot, but I started using Toggl, I think 2018. I was using one before that,
mm,
and then I dropped it and whatever. When I came back, I realized that they've really improved the interface of the app now on your if it's on your laptop, you're using the desktop app, and you start an activity, it will prompt you to track it. So it's not something you have to consciously remember. But after a while, it becomes a habit that you start an activity. Okay, let me start an entry tracker, and then you start it. So one of the benefits of tracking your activities is that when you go back to the collection and processing stage, you're able to set realistic durations for activities because you have a reference point. I remember
mm,
I used to think that it took me 30 minutes to eat, but I realized I spent about 15 minutes eating. That's half of the time. And there's so many things I used to think, and when you do it, it's just amazing. Like, wow, this is how much time I spent on this thing. I never realized it.
yeah.
So it gives you a good reference point moving forward in the future when you are planning things out. Then with the process stage, I use Google Calendar. Now the beautiful thing is that these three apps are synced together and they are all free. So
Mm,
so I collect the things I need to get done. in Notion that is synced to my Google Calendar. And I take my Google Calendar quite seriously. That was a habit that about 3 years ago I got very serious about building. So I visit my Google Calendar like let's say maybe 7 to 20 times within a day. Yeah, I know that's
Mm.
excessive. But yeah,
Wow.
like and if it's a very busy day, then that's about like 15 to 20 times, like just checking to make
Wow.
sure I'm on track. Yeah.
Mm.
I view it as you are going somewhere as a destination. If you're driving Google Maps and you're going somewhere, you don't look at the Google Maps once and go like, okay, I see that place, let's go. You are constantly checking the turns, the landmarks to make sure they're on track. That's
Yeah.
how I approach my calendar. That you can easily drift, you can easily swift off and then go and check a notification or something pops up. You want to do a quick search on Google. The next thing you know, 30 minutes is gone. So having that, habit helps me to stay on track. So now that my things are in Notion and they are synced to Google Calendar, when it pops up, then I take action on it. When I take action on it, my Google Calendar is synced to my Toggl. So the tasks are already my Toggl. When I go there, I just start tracking and then we are done. So by the end of the day, I take a look at my Google Calendar real quick, then I color code them. So green is for things that I got done, red is for things that I didn't get done. Then I take a quick note of, okay, why didn't I get this thing done? What can I do differently to make sure it doesn't repeat itself? Then
Mm.
yellow is for usually if it's a meeting and then I showed up for the meeting, but the other person didn't show up, then I make it yellow. So it's like I did what I was supposed to do, but then I was depending on somebody to collaborate, but then the other collaborator didn't show up. All right. So
Mm.
that's basically. I started trying blue. So blue basically is like I got a thing done, but not at the time that I wanted to get it done. But anyway,
Okay.
let me not overwhelm you too much. All right, cool. And then with the energy management, the energy management is sleep. You have to monitor your sleep. In my
Mm.
book on hopefully by then, like my book hopefully will come out in the first half of the year. My book is on
Okay.
studying, on learning,
Okay.
how to remember more of what you learn, how to perform better in school. And it's based on my personal story about how I used to struggle in school and then I became a top performing student and the lessons I pulled from that. But there's a strategy where I call watch your sleep like you watch your money.
Wow.
You have to, yeah, a lot of people are very careful about the money guys in their Momo account or whatever bank account it is. So I realized that people like okay, back in like when I was in school, I was very intentional about how many hours I was sleeping. I was literally had a mental note. Okay, I've done 4 here, it's left with three, or I've done 4 here, I have to do 4 here. Because I realized that one of the most important, I don't want to derail too much into study habits. Maybe we can have another episode for that. But I realized that if you backtrack why most students perform poorly in school, you
Mm.
would end at a very crucial juncture, which is the study room, where the study
Okay.
happens.
Okay.
And if you are sleeping half of the time in the study room, then you're not hitting your study targets for that topic. And when it's exams time or midsem or IA, you're going to be behind. So I realized that I need to take my sleep very seriously. Other than that, I'm always going to be tired and dozing off during study time. So that's why it's like watch your sleep like you watch your money because it's a very important aspect of your life as a student, the steady time. All right. So yeah, the same thing translates to if you're a worker, if you're an entrepreneur. If you're too tired, you won't give your best. Your clients will start to see it, your boss will start to see it. Next thing you know, you're getting a query. All
Yeah.
right. So what I want my listener to do over here is I want you to set a reminder in whatever reminder app you want. If you're using your alarm or whatever, I just want you to set a reminder. If you have to set few reminders, set few reminders to take action on one thing you've learned from today. All right. I want you to
Mm.
take action. All right. Just just set a reminder. All right. So that you start developing the habit of building systems to help you to become the person you want to be so you can achieve your goals. Because at the end of the day, as James Clear says that you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. That is it. People set this big crazy goal and they think that by default it will happen. No. Based on the current system that you used to operate, that is how far you go. All right. So that is
Yes.
it for step 4. So finally, step 5. So quick recap. Number 1, get clear on why you want to set your goals. Step 2, do a review of the past, learn from it. Step 3, get clear on the goals that you want to set, write them down, be crystal clear. Step 4, take action. Block out the things you need to do. If it has to be even just tomorrow, just block it out.
Mm.
Set reminders and take action on it. Most people feel like they have to block out the next 3 years of their life. Just block out tomorrow. When you wake up tomorrow, take action on it. All right. So step 5 finally is to build in a review and accountability system. So our key verse over there is Matthew 18:15. If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their faults just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. So when you are using systems, for example, let's say a Notion template, and you're using a Gantt chart, there's a feature where you can share it with somebody else. I recommend you share it with an accountability partner. And for me, I don't believe so much in accountability partners. I believe in running mates. So running mate is somebody who is also going after the same goal you're going after. If it's maybe losing weight, or it's making money, or building a business, or hitting a certain GPE or cumulative average, they are alongside running with you. All right. So
Yeah.
that way, it also has this inbuilt motivation. It's not somebody who is so detached from your goal and they just hear from you at the end of every month. Like that also has its benefit. But if you can get a running mate, get a running mate. And usually, when people think about accountability partners, they think about an accountability group that has 15 people, even
Mhm.
5 people, three. Like, you just need
One.
one
Mm.
person who's going to hold you to a high standard. And you also hold that person to a high standard. The person has to, and this part is really important. The person shouldn't be afraid of calling you out when you're being lazy.
Mm.
Like Eli, you said you wanted to hit this money goal in the next 6 months. For the last 3 days, you've not sent any updates. Bro,
Mm.
bro, you are slacking. Slacking. Like, in a respectful way, but like they tell you, it's like
Yeah.
your inner voice that has come out and another form of human being speaking to you, you
Yeah.
know. So that is it for the running mates part now. And then lastly for this part, what I want to say is that I want you to focus on habits, not goals.
Mm. Right.
Focus on habits, not goals. The goals will take care of themselves.
Right.
Focus on habits. Because think about it this way. Anybody who sets a goal to maybe let's say win the World Cup, a team country that sets a goal to win the World Cup, they all have the same goal,
Yeah.
but there'll be only one person who wins the World Cup.
Yeah.
You see, so at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's your habits, the things that you do
Mm.
that determine the outcome. Because if you think about it this way, if you do the things that produce a certain outcome and you don't obsess about the outcome, but you do the things that produce the outcome, you still get the outcome.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah.
A lot of
But if you
sense.
obsess
Yeah.
about that, yeah, if you're obsessed about the outcome, but you don't do the things that produce the outcome, you get the outcome.
Mm.
So do the things that produce the outcome. Don't be so obsessed. Am I there? Am I not there? Like just on a daily basis, little by little, chip away at the goal. And the next thing you know, you get there. And I realized the power of this in when I was working for a client some time back. Now, I also have a history of marketing. So I was putting together a marketing campaign for them. There's inbound and outbound. I don't get into the details, but the whole idea was that inbound requires a bit of effort. You have to, create content, put the content out there, get the email addresses of people with their permission, create a master class, create a training, like it's quite intensive. A lot of people don't want to do inbound. And I've been pushing for inbound for a while because we did it the first time we got results. And it was exhausting for the team, but we got results. So I was pushing for a second time that we should do it. And the boss was dragging for a while. Eventually, I was like, okay, let's do it. All right. So he said, Eli, go ahead, create a company. So I started creating the company. So every day for about 2 months, I was working on it. Eventually, it was done. Then on meeting day, I was like, okay, the campaign is ready. Let's roll. And he started coming up with excuses. Like, okay, but this, and I was like, it's done. Okay, what about this thing? It's done. Okay, but that means we can only do it over the weekend. Yeah, because the weekend people are going to be home and they can log on to the webinar. Obviously, so that everything is done. There was no way for him to come up with an excuse for us not to do it. And then we did it.
Mm.
And that's when I realized, wow, if you really go to work on your goals every day, it becomes undeniable that the
Mm-hmm.
outcome should happen. It's
Yeah.
like the universe cannot deny you that
Mm-hmm.
this thing like is yours. You've put in the efforts. All right. So yeah, for me, that's what I realized that just focus on your habits. Eventually you will get there. So if you're listening to me, what I want you to do over here is I want you to go through your WhatsApp chats in the last 21 days. I want you to find one person, just one person, who
Mm,
would be your running mate. Who
mm.
would be your running mate? I want you to tell them to listen to this podcast, listen to this episode. And if they don't listen, fine. If they listen, awesome. But I want them to listen to so at least they have some framework, they have some frame around which you're going to do the step three, which is, tell them that every morning you send them an update of your what you want to, so your big goal for the year, your one goal for the year. What you want to do is you tell them, okay, this is one thing I'm going to do. This is one thing that I want to do to move me forward to my goal for the year. And at the end of the day, you send them a quick report, which is the Wilder framework. So this is what I want to do. So maybe you send to them at 7 a.m. or something. This is actually what happened within the day. Now, this
Mm,
is what I've learned from what actually happened. And this is what I'm going to do differently moving
mm.
forward. And moving forward is tomorrow. So your tomorrow updates will be what you learned from today that you're going to do differently to moving forward towards your goal. I don't know if that makes sense.
A lot of sense. Yeah.
So, so you see this kind of micro, macro framework play where it's like you can use the Wilder framework for the big picture goal of what happened last year, and you can
Yeah,
squash it down on a daily basis. Right.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if you do that, it will really help you and your running mates. And one last thing is that you don't necessarily have to wait to the end of the day to speak to your running mates. If you have a challenge within the day, you're struggling with something, you can hit them up. Like, this
Hmm.
thing is not working like the way I expected. Do you have any, work around it? Well, oh yeah, I faced this thing like last week. Just go to this site, da, 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 like, okay. Oh wow, that's easy. You move on. All right. So quick recap, and then I like to listen to any questions or suggestions from you have. So get clear on why you want to achieve your goals for the year. Quickly do a review of the past and learn from it. Number three, get clear on your goal for the year. If you can just get just one big goal for the year, get clear on it. Make sure that it's specific, make sure it's measurable, make sure you can take action on it at least every day. If you can even do it every other week or every other day, fine. But be deliberate and taking action. The number four is taking the action.
Yeah.
Manage your time well, manage your energy well. If you have to even if you don't have to get any fancy apps or something, set a reminder every day, take action on it. Number five, find one person in your life who hold you accountable to the high standard that will produce that outcome. Focus on the things you need to do every day or every other day to move forward towards your goal. Send your reports. And that's the very important part. Send your report. If you don't send your reports, be like, I can get away easily. Send a report. Send the end of the day report. Send the end of the day report. And I believe if you do this, you would get closer to achieving your goals for the year. Thank you.
Wow. 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 When you were talking about the last part, that has to do with focusing more on the habits than on the goals, what came to mind? Because actually this year I was reflecting, sometimes the challenges we face when we set our goals and we are unable to achieve them. I realized that we do not really take time to look at the costs, which has to do with the habits. So, what is it going to cost me to get to where I want to get to? It's just like you enter the supermarket and you want to buy things without money, you will get out empty, So, what is the cost? What is it going to cost me to get there? And that comes to the habits that you mentioned. um, is it going to cost me to do this every day? If it has to do with exercising 3 times a week, if it has to, planning out my day, or even implementing the 5 steps that you gave us or you shared with us, if it has to do with that and, following them diligently, if I don't do it, then it means that I'm not going to get to I'm not going to achieve my results. So I think that the habits, once we focus more on the habits, definitely the results are undeniable, like you rightly said.
Mm,
There is no way you wouldn't see the results. So
mm,
um I think this is a lot of information to consume. It's so
My
much
apologies. My
insightful.
apologies.
No. It's actually a good thing. Because I think personally, I may have to even sit down and listen to this session again. Because there are so many
Myself.
things there are so many things that I need to,
Mm,
take note of, remember, and practice them. There were very key things that
mm,
you're mentioning in there that are very important. I'm going to sit back and listen to this podcast again. Um, they are very amazing things in as much as it looks like a lot in terms of the
mhm.
systems to put in place, I still see them as very relevant. Um, I would want to ask maybe one question before
Sure, no
we end
problem.
the entire session.
Mhm,
When you face challenges, or
mhm.
do you actually experience challenges in terms of, planning and implementing the things that you said you do? When you face challenges in doing them, what are some of the things that you do to get you back on track?
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for asking that. I use the Waldo framework. Yeah, and it helps me to gain a lot of clarity. So, for example, I used it just yesterday, like a mental note.
Mm,
So I told you that I plan my habits or I track my habits using Google Sheets. Yeah, like that. So usually when people come up with excuses that, oh, I have to download an app, I don't have space on my phone, or like just use Google Sheets, or just use what you have. All right. And I realized that I'm tracking a lot of habits.
mm,
And that's a lot of things I need to get done within the day. So I asked myself, okay, what if I could track only one habit
mm,
for one subdomain in the domains of my life? And I realized that I could still move forward towards my goals for the year. So that's it. The framework, like, okay, what did I want to happen? I call it an all green day. So an all green day. So in my Google Sheets, when I get a day, it's green. That's a yes. If I miss a day, that's no, that's red. So an all green day, that means all green, you knock down all of the habits. But I was struggling to get all green days. I was like, okay, that's what I wanted to happen. What's actually happening? I'm not getting all green days. Okay. So what can I learn from that? Based, if I look at my calendar for the day and I look at my habit tracker for the day, I realize I'm trying to do too many things, and most of the activities take longer than expected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the amount of habits, the most essential ones that will still move me forward in each subject. So that's it. Like, what do you want to see happen? What is actually happening? What did you learn from what the difference? And what are you going to do differently? It's priceless.
mm. So if I get that clear, there's a bit of some evaluation in there. If things are
Yes,
not going your way, you'd want to check your calendar
exactly.
and your tracker and to know
Mhm.
the loopholes and try to address them. So basically, if
Awesome.
I'm right,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So
Wow.
even if you're not tracking, right? If you're not tracking at the moment, it's like there will be tension. Like, okay, things are not going the way I wanted it to go. Okay, you wanted it to go a certain way. What is that way? That is the
Okay.
first thing.
Okay.
Okay, then what is actually happening now? The thing that is producing the tension or frustration. Then that's the
Mm,
second thing. Okay, cool. Now, what are you learning from that? You realize that you have to reset your expectations. That maybe you thought will be easy. And it's not as easy as you expected
mm,
because of what? Okay, you thought you could just create a product and then you get 100 people buying every month, but not even one person is buying.
mm,
You know why? Then it's like you start to really dig deep. Okay, based on how people buy or based on the sales you've made in the past, how has it usually happened? Then you pick your lesson from there. So what has actually happened? Maybe after that, you've got 100, you've got to five people. But how did the five people find you? Okay, there were recommendations from a friend. Two of those people are actually your friends. Then two people were friends from those other three. You're like, huh. Okay, so what if I go and tell those other three people to recommend me more to other people? I tell them, like, I create a special flyer for them so that they can share it on their WhatsApp status because they seem to have people who need this product. I know if they're getting me.
yeah.
Hey, so then now you take action. They do. Yeah,
Okay. Wow. Yeah, because sometimes it may not necessarily be because you are not really working on your plans, but things are just not going the way you want it. maybe that's where you see the reality of how things are, panning out and all that. So then you have to re-strategize so that you still end up coming back to hit your goals. Right. That's very good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. This has been a very
You're
wonderful
welcome,
session. I
Elisa.
enjoyed listening
I'm
to
telling
it.
you,
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, it's been very good, and I'm so grateful for your time out of your busy schedule to be here. And I'm sure that our listeners here are also benefiting from all that you are sharing with us. So we hope to
I hope
see you
so.
again. Um, One of the things
By
that
the
I'm
grace of
quite
God.
interested in discussing has to do with distractions
Mm-hmm.
in our time. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many things going on in on the internet. You go online, there's TikTok all over the place, there's Instagram, Snapchats, and all of that. How to still hit your goals and targets amidst all of these these distractions or this noisy environment, and how you can
Mm-hmm.
also leverage these tools to your benefit. So maybe some other time we
Exactly.
can have a discussion on that as
Definitely.
well.
I
Yeah,
like to have a talk of that. Yeah.
good, good. All right. Thank you so much then. I think
You're welcome, Elisa.
yeah. So, listeners, if you have any thoughts, you can share your comments in the comment section. If you do some of these things, the five key things that he mentioned, you can share with me your favorite one in the comment section. If there's something else that you practice or you put in place to hit your targets and has not been mentioned, you could also share in the comment section. We'll be glad to have them here. So we'll catch you again in our next video. Bye. Okay.